In life, you don't get second chances. And that lesson has stuck to me until today.
Wow.
And so I love a good cheesecake, unless it's my grandmother's chocolate cake.
Oh, nice.
Is a lot of entrepreneurs think it's all about raising money. When actually that's kind of the last thing, or like it's a second order effect of building a good business. One thing I always tell entrepreneurs is the business is the easiest part. The people are the hard part.
Welcome to Let's Talk Why Not, a podcast brought to you by Help University, the University of Achievers, where we get to meet with distinguished alumni who have found success and significance in their lives. Today, it's our honor to welcome Aaron Sarma, a noted entrepreneur, a former alumni of Help who did business with us many years ago. He has gone on to start various businesses, including Touristly, a travel platform that was bought by the AirAsia Group, eventually became Vidi. He was the founding director and COO for the AirAsia Super App. He has played leadership roles in MDAC, is a general partner in Scale Up Malaysia, and a co-founder of Remote Ventures, where he helps a new generation of entrepreneurs start up businesses here in Malaysia. So Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. All right.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure always to meet former alumni, and Aaron, along with being an alumni, you've also been very, very supportive to Help. I believe currently you're serving in the Industry Advisory Board to our technology faculty as well, all right? And that's interesting because while you're an technopreneur in Malaysia, I believe your beginnings of your career and your studies actually began in business.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so maybe you can walk us through what was your journey that led you to the road to become a technopreneur here?
Thanks, Dr. Goh. I think you're right. You know, one of the things that people talk about when they hear my story is they think that, oh, I must have been an IT guy, or I must be somebody who understands technology in an intimate way. Truth is, I can't code, and I still can't code until this day.
Sure.
But I have always been interested in technology as a point of interest for myself, and I always felt that I knew it was the way that the economy was moving forward in the years to come. But when I graduated, I would say a few years ago in 2001, we were business guys.
Not that long ago,
Not
Aaron. Not that long
it's
ago.
like just a few seconds in my head.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just about doing business. You know, we didn't really have these big apps. And apps wasn't even a thing. There was no iPhone. Google was just starting with their search business. But we knew that we wanted to do business, and I started. My first job was in advertising. Then I got into retail. There was a point where I was organizing gigs for bands.
Wow.
Yeah, there was stuff like that.
Okay.
But then one day, I remember having dinner with some friends, right? And at the time, there was a new kind of business that's getting very popular. It was called Groupon, which was like a daily
Yeah, of
deals
course. I
business.
remember Groupon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like just a week before that dinner talking to another friend of mine and saying, this sounds easy enough. We just have to figure out how to build this website and we
Okay.
can do this ourselves. But that wasn't the journey I took. What happened was somebody gave me a call one day over dinner. It was like a Friday evening, randomly. And they said, hey, we're looking for somebody to be the country manager of a daily deals platform, like a Groupon.
Okay.
HQ is in Singapore, but we need you to be the country lead for Malaysia. And immediately I realized that, hey, why not? This is a good opportunity for me to get into this space and to learn firsthand how to run a tech business. And so I did that. For 3 years, I ran as the country manager of Malaysia. I was the first employee, hired all the team. We got to profitability towards the end of the period, at least in Malaysia. And towards the end of that time, I started thinking to myself, hey, I can run my own company now. I understand how tech works. I know how to talk to developers a little bit better now. I know a little bit about digital marketing. Why not? Let's start my own company. And that's kind of how we started with Touristly. So I think the funny thing about my story is that I didn't start off in tech, but it was just because I took that courage and that leap to say, hey, why not? Why don't I try this thing that I've somehow ended up in this space? And now I work with hundreds of entrepreneurs in Malaysia to help them kind of build their business.
So maybe honing in a bit about how you start Touristly. It's very interesting that you had a variety of different experiences, right? So whether it's sales, whether it's event organization, then starting, a business in Malaysia that is online based. Walk us through, how do you get the idea for Touristly? Why Touristly? Out of all of the online businesses in the world, why a travel platform?
So It's a really good question, actually. So when we were at that earlier company, it was called Street Deal. We were selling a whole bunch of stuff at that deal site. So we sold restaurant vouchers, spa vouchers, some product as well, some toasters and stuff like that, which became really hot selling. But a really popular vertical of ours was travel. And at the time, there were only a couple of options that you could have in terms of how you want to plan your holiday. You could go to one of the airline websites and book a flight, and then you could go to a hotel booking website to book a hotel, but you couldn't really book your activities on the ground. And so we thought, hey, you know what? I've got a team who's willing to run with me on this. We could potentially build a similar business as the previous business, but like a deal platform for experiences when you travel. That evolved over time as we raised money, as we built the platform. Eventually that became like, let's build your own trip planner. And that's kind of how Tertiary was born. And later when we wanted to talk to AirAsia and Tony Fernandez about this, we said, hey, you've got the flights, you've got the hotels, we can complete the package with what we're offering. And that's how that conversation started, actually.
I think that's a really good illustration of perhaps the mind of an entrepreneur, using the skills that you're obtained through the many years of leadership, but also having the eye to recognize an opportunity. I mean, would you say that's one of the key skills of entrepreneurship? It's not necessarily having the technical know-how.
Yes.
You don't need to, for example, be a programmer to start an IT company, but it's more an understanding of maybe consumer patterns, broader market, gaps in current needs. I mean, would you say that that's a key skill?
I think like the first thing any entrepreneur needs to know is how to identify a problem and adequately describe it. And if you can say that this is the problem that customers are facing, once you are able to describe that problem, you are then in a better position to find a way to solve that problem. And then it's about your capacity to make that happen, right? And I think that is where you have to have grit, you have to have the ability to learn. People also used to think that I had some sort of travel agency experience, which I had none, which is really funny because once we started building this travel platform, I had to learn everything about how the travel industry worked. And by the end of it, you kind of understood a little bit more. And so my journey actually has been very similar. You're right to call out that I've been in different industries over time, be it event management or even retail, where we're selling men's clothes in malls at one point, or even like doing an e-commerce site, travel, and now I'm dabbling a little bit into clean energy and things like that. So really interesting to kind of learn new things. I think all entrepreneurs are naturally curious to learn those new things and then figure out what are the gaps and try to fill those gaps.
So maybe the next question is having experience, mentoring lots of entrepreneurs. So you run startups, you mentor them, help them get funding, help them accelerate. From your observation, what are some of the most common mistakes or pitfalls that young beginning entrepreneurs should be avoiding when they begin their businesses?
I think the most prevalent issue I see is a lot of entrepreneurs think it's all about raising money. When actually that's kind of the last thing, or it's a second order effect of building a good business.
Okay.
Fundraising is important because you need it to scale, you need it to kind of grow the team, you need to go into a new market, or try a new vertical, try a new product line. It's necessary, but it's not the thing, right? It's not the most important thing about starting a business. The most important thing is really understanding what the pain points of your customers are and understanding if you're really solving those pain points in a meaningful way. And if you solve customer pain points, they're more likely to pay you for solving their problems. And I think if you can articulate that and build a business around that, the money will come. The investors will come because they see you filling a void in the market. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point. You're right. A lot of times startups, the main preoccupation is ensuring they've got the oxygen, the money to actually keep going. But I think your point being, the quality of the idea first, right? The quality of the solution first. So maybe I just to follow up from that. So once I've got a really good idea, so assuming I've identified a need that is not being met or a problem that is not being solved, so job to be done kind of thinking, I've got a solution that works. Next step, what are some of the more common challenges before we talk about fundraising? Maybe just in terms of building organizations or scalability, where are the more common hurdles that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to overcome?
Actually, in your question, you kind of implied the answer as well. One thing I always tell entrepreneurs is the business is the easiest part. The people are the hard part. Because entrepreneurship really is about dealing with people. And you deal with people throughout the journey. It could be your team. It could be your first investor. It could be your last investor. It could be the market, your customers. It could be the random guy on the street who has heard about your product. It could be some newscaster somewhere. How you deal with people is really how successful you can be. And so I think the first order of business when you want to start a business, once you figure out this problem set, you know how to solve it, you've kind of built a bit of an MVP, then it's about really how do you bring people in? How do you attract the right talent to come and join your initiative in a way that will inspire them to work? Because especially in the early startup game, you probably don't have money to pay them proper salaries or proper compensation in a way that's meaningful in a corporate environment. So they really have to believe in the vision and they really have to all come together and build something special. And so your ability as a founder to attract and retain the best talent you can get at every point of your journey is really important.
Now, I think that kind of people leadership skills, right? Being able to engage with different stakeholders, connect with people. We've been talking a lot about, how AI is replacing a lot of jobs. A lot of tasks that human beings used to be able to do well. AI is outperforming us. Perhaps one of the things where humans still have a unique ability is in the area you've just discussed. How do I earn trust from investors?
That's right.
Investors may not, invest just based on an AI presentation. They want to look into the eyes of the leader or the founder and be able to ask whether I can trust you. Same thing with staff, right? My team needs to be able to look in my eyes and say, okay, am I willing to go with you into the sort of the gates of hell, so to speak?
That's right.
Do I trust where you're going? And same thing with partners, investors, with other people that you're networking in the business. So I think these people skills really important, right?
I've seen teams where they've come to us and they've got really the best presentation deck. Their numbers look fantastic, but the team you can tell is not the best team. And then I've seen teams where it's an excellent founding team. The deck's a bit sketchy, and the product maybe a little bit, and they're maybe a bit early. They've not really proven anything. And 9 out of 10 times, the team with the better, the founding team with the better team, will outperform the team with the better product and pitch deck. 9 out of 10 times, because ultimately people make the business, the businesses make itself. And so, like a poor team will destroy a great business, but a great team will figure out how to make it work.
So on that note, then Aaron, when you're looking at the makeup of a team, that also implies usually it's not a one-man, one-woman show, right? Therefore, as an entrepreneur, a startup leader, it's about surrounding myself. Is that true?
That's
with
right.
People who compensate for my weakness. So if I'm the idea technical person, maybe I need to find somebody with people skills.
That's right.
So maybe on that note, what advice do you give people who are looking for team members to join them in the journey of building a new business? What are the different talents that need to be in that founding team, Aaron?
So I think, certainly in tech, there's always a technical capability. But I would argue that every business requires some sort of subject matter expert, right? Okay. So if you're doing a coffee business, somebody needs to know how to make the coffee. Or if you're doing a restaurant, a similar thing happens as well. So I think what is really true, that an entrepreneur needs to know what their gaps are and how they can fill those gaps with having people around them that can fill those gaps. That takes a lot of self-awareness. A lot of people maybe aren't willing to accept their failures or shortcomings, and really being able to think through that is really important in assembling the team. Then you've got to also recognize talent, right? And I think being able to see, is somebody really good at something that I can't do and able to complement me, and kind of keeping them engaged and motivated is really important. And I think these are skill sets that you need to acquire. The only way you really acquire interpersonal skill sets is unfortunately by spending more time with people. And that's why, in college, you do a lot of project work because that's really training ground.
Group work, like.
Yeah, how do you do that how you deal with these team members? There'll be always one guy who doesn't do any work but shows up on the presentation day.
Sure.
There'll always be the hardworking student, but really being able to bring everybody together to make something happen, this is training for what's going to happen in the real world.
And that's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things we've tried to do in most of our classes in Help University is to do away with the practice of allowing students to pick their own group members. And we've tried where possible to actually say it's random, or we make you work with people from different departments, different backgrounds, and really the purpose is to simulate that, right? That it's difficult and challenging when I'm working with people I don't know, people with different work styles, different backgrounds, different countries, different, even different subjects, So you've got a psychology student, IT student, business student, comm student, law student, education student working together. It's more difficult, but it's a better practice. It's a better education in preparing you for the real world, where you're going to have to purposely choose team members that are different, right? It's not about choosing 4 of you and then that team is not going to be effective, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going to take a short break.
Sure.
I think Aaron, some really fantastic gems already for all the budding entrepreneurs out there in Help University. We'll be back in a minute, and we'll come back to perhaps what else you've learned in your journey as an entrepreneur. Right? Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you. We are back with Aaron Sarma, an alumni of Help University, talking about his journey in entrepreneurship. But he's also been offering some really valuable advice to all the young entrepreneurs out there. And it's true, actually, when we think back to Help's history, we are about to turn 40 years old next year, Aaron. So we've been here since 1986. But a very high proportion of Help University graduates have actually ended up in entrepreneurship. But we don't know what's in the water. I think part of it is the entrepreneurial spirit that is injected in by our founders. So Datuk Chan and Datin Chan, of course, were startups themselves. They were entrepreneurs themselves, and perhaps that spirit has sort of cascaded through the teaching team to all of the students. And we are here, speaking to one of our proud alumni, Aaron, who has done amazing things in his career, continues to do so. Now, Aaron, one of the latest endeavors you're involved in is you're supporting Gentari, a subsidiary of Petronas that is looking at clean energy solutions. Maybe you can tell us a bit about what Gentari is doing, but also more generally for students and graduates who are looking to explore that space, whether they are looking for jobs in clean energy companies, but also those who are planning to do startups, in that space. Maybe some advice.
Yeah, right? I think maybe I'll start by answering the last part first, right?
Yep.
In my journey as an entrepreneur, I've had moments where sometimes I'm working with an organization, sometimes I'm building my own business, and I've had the luxury and the privilege actually of being on multiple sides of the spectrum, be it as a founder, and then later on now, more recently as an investor, and then now kind of going back into a corporate environment. And ultimately, like even within AirAsia, after we sold, for a couple of years, I was in that corporate environment before we launched the AirAsia Super App, right? And so I think one thing a lot of founders need to realize is that your journey is never so linear. And sometimes you've got to be willing to try new things. And remember in the earlier part of our conversation, we were talking about how I was not an e-commerce guy or a tech guy, but I said, why not, and tried something different. This was kind of one of those things, right? I was not looking at Gentari as somebody I work with or be a part of. But one day, a friend of mine said, hey, Aaron, what are you up to? And I know, and everybody knew what I was up to because people know that I was involved with Scale Up and remote ventures and stuff. And said, hey, I'm with Gentari. And I was like, what's Gentari? And then I realized, this is a Petronas' clean energy division. Gentari focuses on 3 verticals. It's renewables, it's hydrogen and green mobility. Gentari itself is an amalgamation of the word generasi and lestari, so Gentari. And I thought to myself at the time, like, this is a great opportunity to get into a space which I thought was really interesting. It's in clean energy, getting to know how it would work, and I really, really wanted to understand how that would work, and specifically with EVs and how that would kind of influence society moving forward. So it was really that instinct to try something different that got me to build stuff with Gentari. We've built kind of cool stuff within Gentari now. We've got Gentari Go, which is our front-facing app. There's some digital solutions we've also rolled out. And we've rolled out in multiple countries in the last year, in India, in Thailand, in Malaysia, and soon to be more countries as well. My advice to young students looking to start in new industries, get involved as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Sometimes just getting in on any floor, doesn't have to be the top floor, is good enough. Because I think if you want to win in any game, you got to be playing in the game. And no point sitting outside looking in and saying, when will this ever happen to me? You got to make that first move and try.
Okay. No, I think that's really good advice. Sometimes, perhaps as human beings, at different stages of our life, we are waiting for the perfect moment, perfect time, perfect place. But as you and I know, I mean, that rarely comes. And so it's not so much choosing the perfect time or moment, but having the courage to actually jump in even when things are not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, the clean energy space we all know is a growing opportunity. I mean, huge demands, because of legislation, because of, the culture and the greater growing awareness that this is really an important issue. So, I mean, again, as a young entrepreneur, if Help University students are thinking about how to enter that space, whether it's an idea, whether it's joining an NGO or an organization. I mean, is there any advice in terms of understanding that space, but also, just a broad view of where can the starting point be? As you say, just jump in, but where can the entry point be?
And I think jumping in is much easier now than it's been in most industries before, right? One thing I'll tell people to do, if you're trying to get into a new space, look for where the nearest conference is about that industry nearest to you, and just attend. Because in one short period of time, you get to understand who the players are, what the opportunities are, what the latest innovations are, what are the themes that everybody's talking about, and I think that gives you so much knowledge that you can take wherever you go. I remember when I wanted to get into startups, and I went for a Cradle Fund conference one day, and I got to meet a lot of the people who became friends later on and who I still work with until today through that one interaction. So it really goes to what we were saying earlier. You got to get yourself out there and meet people and understand how these industries work, and that's the first way into most industries.
I mean, recently, Aaron, you were also part of one of our second-year classes here at Help. That introduced students to the area of sustainability and planetary health. We gave about 400 second-year students a challenge to develop a solution to cope with a problem or challenge like sustainability. And I think it was a really good opportunity for them to start engaging with the issues. I know, you were one of our guest judges right on the last day where they did their pitches. It was really enjoyable, I think, for us to see how, for many of them, this was the first time thinking about issues like that. And yet, in a short space of 2-3 months, they were able to come up with quite creative solutions, isn't it?
I concur. I mean, I was really impressed by the quality of the ideas, and the teams that really were passionate and really had that desire to solve that problem. They really had a laser focus on that issue they're looking at. You could tell. You could tell that there was almost a connection to that solution. And then there were some teams who they just did it for the project, right? But I think that's really true in life as well. You can tell when an entrepreneur is passionate about what they're doing, when it's they wake up to do this. And that's something special about finding an entrepreneur who wants to wake up in the morning, energized to solve this problem. That's really the value you take when you meet an entrepreneur for the first time, versus a guy who's I'm just doing this to make a quick buck, and you can tell it right away because you know that guy is just in it for the money. Yeah.
So the importance of having some personal connection to the issue or to the solution. Now, Teachers' Day is coming up soon, Aaron, all right, in a couple of weeks. It's something that we celebrate here in Help University. Obviously, we are an education institution. We really value our lecturers, our educators. In fact, our mantra here is everybody is an educator. Whether you're a lecturer, admin staff, marketing staff, we all play a role in educating the next generation. Now, thinking back to the many years ago when you were here in Help and attending classes, is there perhaps a moment, a lesson that you still remember has stuck with you? Something that you learned, in one of your subjects that you studied here in Help that you still find valuable as a leader and a technopreneur now?
There is exactly one moment, and I still talk about it till this day.
Excellent. Please share.
I did business studies in Help, right? And we had a lecturer from Croatia who came, and I think I remember his name, but I'll have to double check to see if that name's correct. But he was from Croatia. I remember that very clearly because it was the first time I saw what Croatia looked like.
Professor Simic was his name.
That's right. Oh, thank you. Oh,
and he still keeps in touch with us.
Oh, and you should tell him that I still tell this story.
I will show him this podcast.
So I remember he was teaching us cross-cultural communications, right? Or cross-cultural business, something like that. And I remember we had an exam, right? And I did the paper, as best as I could. And then I went back and I looked through the paper and I realized, this answer is wrong, right? So I took my eraser, I scratched it off, and then I marked the right multiple choice question to the right answer. We submit the paper, and Professor comes and gives us the results. And I look at the paper, and I see that answer that I marked, the correct one, he marked it wrong. And so I was annoyed and I was upset. And I went into him and said, "Hey, why?" And he said, "Yeah, because it's wrong." I said, "But I circled the right answer." I said, "Yeah, but it's wrong." And then he turned to me and said, "In life, you don't get second chances." And that lesson has stuck to me until today.
Oh, wow.
And so I thank him for that because I think that was a very powerful lesson. I'm still sore that I got that, and I got 99% on the exam, but thank you for that life lesson because I think I've taken it everywhere I've gone.
Interesting, man. Interesting, all right? Now, one of the things that we've been doing in Help University over the last couple of years is to develop what we call a core list of competencies that all of our students, will acquire through their studies. It's a core curriculum, which means whether they're studying IT or law or psychology or business or whatever it is they're doing here in Help, they will still need to learn those core curriculums. And we've developed it into 8 core attributes. Right? We feel that in an AI world, an AI generation, in a VUCA world, disruptive world, the role of a university really is to develop the person. It's not just to give them technical skills because, you can learn technical skills from a YouTube video, right? And so the role of a university is transformative. It's helping our young generation become the kind of people that will succeed whatever career they pick. So whether they choose entrepreneurship, whether they choose to be employees, leaders, in any field, we feel these 8 core attributes are key, right? So they include mental agility, the ability to learn things quickly, social intelligence. Earlier we talked about connecting with people, strategic communication. You can communicate any message in a persuasive, in a powerful way. Digital agility, whatever is the new technology that is out there, like Gen AI, you're able to connect the dots, and apply it to your work and life. Global environmental awareness, so they're not katak di bawah tempurung, they understand the bigger world. Moral courage, resilience and wellness, and then clarity of purpose. Now, when you look through the list, as a leader and entrepreneur yourself, but also as an employer, who is, I'm sure, doing interviews all the time and deciding who you want in your organization, and also who are the kind of entrepreneurs that you would back, that you would trust with your investment money. Maybe pick for me 2 or 3 of these attributes that you think are the most important.
Well, one thing I'll say is, as looking at these attributes, and thank you for sharing it with me, because I probably wouldn't remember it, but these are all very, very important skills to have in the workplace as you go out there and meet people. But since you're giving me 3 to choose, I will choose 3. When I look for an entrepreneur, when we look at people we want to support, the first thing we look at is, I would say, and the thing I look for really is clarity of purpose. The entrepreneur needs to know, and I think this applies in work life as well, you need to know why you do what you do, right? It cannot be a situation where you're waking up in the morning and just going through the motions for the sake of going through the motions, or doing something because someone told you to. The best entrepreneurs know with razor-sharp precision why they're doing certain things, or why this activity is important in the day. And that's really important to an entrepreneur. The second thing I think is that mental agility, right? You're going to be facing so many challenges on your day-to-day that you kind of have to be on your feet and be able to adjust. The market goes down. Somebody imposes a tariff. Somebody does something strange in the competitor introduces a competing product that kind of undercuts you right away.
DeepSeek suddenly emerges.
DeepSeek emerges. And as an entrepreneur, this is like life, and you can't go and cry somewhere and say that's not important. You got to be able to respond to it. So having that agility to think through problems, really kind of get to an answer, and try to find a way to work your way through a problem, I think is important. I think the final thing that I would say, since I have three to choose, is resilience and wellness. I think the greatest entrepreneurs have a sense of grit, that no matter what, there's a never say die attitude, right? And they are able to do this even in very, very stressful moments in their journey. The best entrepreneurs go through a near-death experience. I think all entrepreneurs have to go through this because it's kind of part of the journey. And unless you go through that near-death experience, you've never really lived as an entrepreneur, or it's coming soon and you don't know it yet. And once you get through it, you've kind of come across as a much better entrepreneur. So I think being able to have that resilience is important. But I noticed you added the word wellness here, which I think is also pretty key, right? We're living in an age where you need to look after yourself because every entrepreneur, your most valuable asset and most important asset is you. And I think every entrepreneur needs to remember that. Yeah.
I think that's really important. Certainly after COVID, as you know, Aaron, a lot more awareness among society, among all of us, about mental health, physical health, the fact that if we are not able to keep ourselves well, we are not in a position to actually look after others, right?
Yeah.
So as a leader, it's not about being selfish, but if I'm not being right myself, I'm not in a mental or physical position to be able to play my role as a leader.
It's like how on an aeroplane, you always put
Yeah.
the mask on yourself first before your kid. It's the same thing, yeah.
So Aaron, we've been talking a lot about, tips for entrepreneurs and people who want to start businesses and do startups. Now, one of the exciting projects we are working on is to begin the first Help Incubator program. And that's really exciting. It's the first time we are doing it. And thanks to Aaron, we're going to be launching that program in August this year during our semester break. It's really open for students and staff of Help who are interested in learning how to become an entrepreneur. It's a 2-week program run during the holidays. Aaron, maybe you can talk a little bit more about what can they expect to experience when they come and do this 2-week incubator program.
Sure. When I was studying, I always was interested in entrepreneurship, starting my own company. And of course, later on, I was interested in how do I start a tech business or some sort, right? I wish I had tools, and I wish I had some sort of way to learn and get hands-on experience, maybe with a little bit of training wheels, so that I can maybe try out being an entrepreneur for the first time. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to provide that experience for students. So I think if students are looking for an opportunity to build their business or to try an idea, stress test if this is really something for you, I think this is a great program for you to try. You'll be able to meet with some great individuals. I'll be there, and also I'll bring some friends of mine who are very experienced in the industry to give you the hard-nosed truth and some good advice about how to get started and what the fundamentals of building a business is like. I think you'll learn a lot. We're keeping it very intense but very light so that you can learn and engage and really try out what this is like to start a new company and pitch it to some interesting people. So give it a go. Why not? Give it a go.
I like the why not
there you go.
pitch in there.
On brand.
And look, I think what's really exciting, aside from the opportunity to learn from real technopreneurs like yourself, is the fact that at the end of the 2-week program, we are also going to be shortlisting groups that we feel are ready to do a pitch in front of real investors, to sort of do a Dragon's Den pitch. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for students and staff. If you've got a group that has an idea that you feel can be made into a business and a startup, This is a wonderful opportunity for you to get some world-class advice on how to shepherd that idea into something that could become commercializable. Wonderful. Okay, so Aaron, thank you so much. I mean, you've shared some really important insights. I think a lot of our students who are thinking about moving into entrepreneurship, technopreneurship, they've got some real gems from you today. Now, we're going to end our podcast, as we always do, with what we call the Help Personhood Test. All right? This is a test
I'm most nervous about this
designed
part,
by our team of psychologists in a secret lab somewhere to reveal, all right, Aaron, the real you. All right. So are you ready to be seen?
I hope so.
To the world, all right? So try to be as spontaneous and as honest as possible. All right. So Aaron Sarma, here we go. What's your favorite dessert?
Ooh, I love a good cheesecake, unless it's my grandmother's chocolate cake.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Makes me want to go and buy both of those straight away. Football or badminton?
Ooh, I've traditionally been a badminton player, but right now I'm also on the board of the stadium, National Stadium Board, so I'm going to say football right now.
Apples or oranges?
Apples.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Nasi lemak or roti canai?
Nasi lemak.
Oceans or mountains?
Ooh, this is tough. Mountains.
What sound makes you happy?
Ooh. I like the sound of a light drizzle in the afternoon.
Nice. Makes me want to sleep and
Yeah,
relax.
right? That's the best sound.
On
Except
the weekend.
Except
when we're having to work. Okay,
except when we're having to work.
What sound makes you sad?
I think seeing children cry because they're sad. I think that's the saddest sound.
Good answer. If you could have coffee with anyone in the world, living or dead, historical figures or current figures, who would it be?
Wow, this is a tough question. Who would it be?
Coffee, 1 hour chat, you can tap their mind. Anybody in the world.
I think in recent history, I would like to have coffee with Barack Obama, as first African American president of the United States. He's an excellent orator, speaks really well. I think somebody I would definitely want to meet. In ancient history, that's a bit of a tricky one, because all the guys I would like to meet would likely kill me at some point. But I would love to meet like the warlords of old.
Wow,
like
that is an interesting answer, Aaron. Why on
just
earth would
to
you want to
see
meet
how
the
they
warlords
saw the
of old?
world? Because we live in a different society now. We live
So
in
we're talking Genghis Khan kind of
like
generation.
Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great.
Okay.
These guys are
Okay.
interesting characters. I love the story of Julius Caesar and how he came
Okay.
to power.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So Barack Obama may be arrangeable.
I
Aaron,
think within the
Julius
degrees
Caesar
of
a bit harder, right?
Within the degrees of separation, I think is possible.
Okay. What do you do to de-stress?
I like time alone with myself. So people tend to think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm actually very much an introvert. I enjoy personal time. These days, I get my exercise in the morning. So I do like a run in the morning, or I go to the gym in the morning. That's important to me, to spend like quiet time. It's essentially by myself. I get to think about problems and kind of get ready to start the day. So really spending time alone, thinking, walking, that's helpful.
What is one personal goal you have set for yourself for this year, 2025?
I've got I think from business goal, I think there's a certain project I'm working on right now. I can't really say what it is, but working on trying to get that off the ground and seeing that come to fruition. On a non-work goal, I'm really working on my personal health. I'm trying to get my body fat down to a certain level, and been working on that for some time, so that working really hard to get that done.
Describe your perfect holiday.
Well, I mean, right now, I'm at a stage of my life where my kids are old enough to have fun with us when we travel. So we're way past the stroller and cleaning.
How old are the kids?
11 and 13 now. So
Perfect age.
I've got two girls, they're 11 and 13. We recently came back from Disneyland Hong Kong. They enjoyed themselves so much and wanted to go on all the roller coasters. And I think now is like a great time to go on holidays with them because in a way you see the world through their eyes, no longer through your own eyes. I think that's quite special.
I'm impressed you survive all the roller coasters.
I'm impressed with myself too. And the worst part is both of them have become daredevils. And so now I have to sit there and smile with this biggest grin on my face.
Skydiving and bungee jumping.
Yeah,
next, huh?
and I have got to be brave. So
Do it, man. Now, one of our mission statements, or part of HELP's mission statement, is to help people live a life of success and significance. And significance is such a meaningful and loaded word to help university staff. So what does it mean to you, you think, to achieve significance in life?
Oh, I think, the moment I felt that I was doing the right thing, I don't know if it's success or significance, right, was many years ago when I was running Tertiary, our startup, right, was that my daughter had something in her kindergarten and I could say, I'm going to leave the office and go and hang out there for a bit. And I realized that not everybody can do that. And I realized having the ability to have the choice to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, that is success. It's not about everything else. That's all nice little things to have, but it's about being able to choose what you do with your time and where you want to spend your life. I think that is success to me.
So that freedom and agency,
Yeah.
that significance. Wonderful. Last question. How do you want people to remember you?
I would like people to remember me as a good person, someone who did the right thing even when it was hard, and somebody that they could rely on and trust to be there when they had a difficult time.
Well, congratulations, Aaron. You have now made yourself known to Help University and to the world. We really thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate your sharing. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Let's Talk, Why Not?